Flash floods in Russia's Krasnodar region struck unexpectedly as thousands woke up to a nightmare. While they were asleep, their lives and the people they loved were being washed away.
У меня мамочка погибла, утонула моя родная. Соседочка моя, вот хата накрылась медным тазом, и соседочка умерла, там утонула.
Emergency teams are continuing to search for survivors after devastating floods killed over 140 people in the southern Russian region of Krasnodar. The disaster, caused by torrential rain, swamped thousands of houses, and there are warnings the rain will continue throughout Sunday. Well, we can now cross live to our correspondent Tom Barton for more on what's going on in the affected areas right now. Tom, so tell us, how are people coping at this point?
Well, at the moment, Marina, the floodwaters have receded from the streets, but as they've receded, they have revealed a scene of absolute devastation. This is a town in a real mess. We've seen in the streets today the first people starting tentatively to try to return to count the cost of what that deluge of water did as it arrived so suddenly during the night. And the numbers, the costs that people see in their houses vary. Some of the stronger buildings made of brick are still standing, but most of the first floors have been ruined by the 1.5 meters of water that swept through them. For many weaker wooden houses here, it was too much, and they collapsed under the weight of the water. There are cars in ditches that have been pushed up against each other, and some others that have been flipped over in the middle of the road. Rubbish has been strewn everywhere by the water that came up out of the river and flowed into the streets. It's a real mess all over the streets there. And now the struggle begins to try and get this town back into some kind of working order. Emergency services have set up refuge centres, and there are still many people in those centres getting some much needed rest and some food and drink. They can't stay in those shelters forever, though. They're going to have to come back to their houses at some point. And that's when the real difficulties that have been left by this flood can really start to be felt. There's very few shops open here. It's hard to get food and basic supplies. There's no electricity. There's no landline telephone service. People are having to try and sift through the wreckage of their homes with none of those things to help them. So this rescue effort is really going to have to take a lot of work from people that struggle together in those terrifying hours to try and save each other's lives. They're now going to have to come together again to try and put their town back together.
Well, indeed, Tom, as you were saying, the footage that we've seen and the pictures are quite dramatic and sort of speak for themselves. But, you know, floods are not rare in these areas, in these resort areas, I should say. So, compared to other calamities, how severe is this disaster compared to what the region has already seen before?
Indeed, they're not rare. The climate here and the geography mean that floods happen. People are used to some flooding every year, but this one really took them by surprise and really has caused a lot of shock. There were major floods in 2002 as well. They affected a large area of the coast, not this particular area, but the death toll this time has been far higher. And I think a lot of people, it was the timing, it was the suddenness of that water that arrived that has caused so much damage and stopped people being able to respond properly. President Vladimir Putin has flown to the region, met with officials to try and coordinate a response at the start of this clean-up effort and to try and work with the people to try and, first of all, get over their grief for all the people that were lost, that couldn't escape in time and lost their lives, and also now to try and start putting this town back into some kind of working order.
All right, Tom, thanks very much for bringing us the very latest from the disaster-struck area. Tom Barton reporting there.